Listen closely. Artificial intelligence is being sold as software floating in the cloud. But the truth is heavier and far more urgent. AI eats electricity, an endless appetite that is already pushing power grids to their breaking point. The real disruption isn't in your apps. It's in the energy markets where scarcity is being repriced in real time. If you want to know where wealth is moving, follow the power, not the headlines. Behind every model and every query is a machine that needs to be kept cold and fed. Training, inference, storage, and the network that ties it all together are energy events. Researchers tracking the build-out of data centers expect electricity demand to climb sharply over the next few years, not in a straight line, but in surges as new clusters come online. Regions that once had comfortable reserve margins are now tight. Utilities are rewriting plans, cities are updating permits, and regulators are dusting off transmission projects that sat on shelves for a decade. This squeeze is already visible on household bills. When big users sign all-hour supply contracts, the grid has to be ready at any moment. That shifts pricing for everyone. In fast-growing data center corridors, summer bills that felt normal a few years ago now bite. Businesses notice first, then families do. You do not need to memorize every statistic to feel the change. You see it in higher base rates, new fees, and warnings about limited capacity during heat waves. The largest tech firms are not waiting for permission. They are hunting for firm power wherever they can find it. Some are signing long-life nuclear deals. Some are buying stakes in wind and solar plus storage projects. Others are adding natural gas peakers to keep clusters online when the sun is gone and the wind is light. A few are even proposing on-site generation so that a campus can run as a private microgrid when the surrounding network is stressed. When software companies start acting like utilities, you know the bottleneck is power, not code. Here's the part that most people miss. The ultimate winners of the AI boom will not only be the teams shipping models.
They will be the owners of capacity who sell reliability at a premium.
Regulated utilities with prudent balance sheets, independent power producers who can expand quickly, nuclear developers who can deliver steady baseload, storage providers who shave peaks, transmission builders who unlock stranded generation, and grid software firms that squeeze more throughput out of the same wires. The market is beginning to re-rate these businesses. Cash flows tied to firm supply look more valuable when demand is inelastic and rising. Globally, the chessboard is being rearranged. Countries with surplus hydro, gas, or nuclear are courting data center clusters and semiconductor parks. Others are struggling to keep up with basic growth. In parts of Europe, the gap between clean energy targets and real-world supply is widening, which forces tough choices about keeping older plants online. In Asia, local governments are fast-tracking generation to keep factories and cloud campuses powered. In the Middle East, energy exporters are pitching turnkey packages that bundle compute, land, and electricity. Access to dependable electrons is becoming an industrial policy lever. Water is entering the conversation as well. Cooling dense racks takes more than clever code. It takes water or extra electricity for chillers. Regions that face drought cycles are asking hard questions about how to allocate scarce resources across farms, cities, and server rooms. None of this means growth stops. It means the price of growth is being reset, and the winners will be the teams that plan for it rather than wish it away. There is also a psychological shift. For years, the story was that technology would make everything lighter and cheaper. Efficiency does help, and the industry is improving chips, cooling, and scheduling. But efficiency often makes demand explode because more people use the service once it gets better. Economists have a name for this rebound effect. You do not need a label. You just need to see the pattern. Every advance in capability has been matched by a bigger wave of usage, and the net draw on the grid keeps climbing. So how do you position on the right side of this without trying to guess every headline? Start by building a personal safety net so you're never a forced seller. 3 to 6 months of expenses in cash gives you the patience to hold through noise. Next, map the stack from generation to delivery and look for real bottlenecks. Generation that runs all day and night. Storage that soaks up cheap power and releases it at the dinner hour. Fast starting plans that keep clusters online when demand spikes. Transmission projects that connect remote resources to urban load. Software that flattens peaks by shifting flexible demand. That is where durable value is forming. Be careful with narratives that promise free power overnight fixes. Permitting takes time. Supply chains for turbines, transformers, and switchgear are tight. Skilled labor is scarce. Projects slip when incentive misaligned. The people who win in this environment are boring on the surface and ruthless under the hood. They manage risk, sign sensible contracts, and deliver on time. They also communicate clearly with regulators and communities because public trust is now a real input cost. There's another layer to watch. As more financial markets move to instant settlement and collateral becomes easier to track, balance sheet strength matters more. Lenders will prefer counterparties with predictable cash flow and low operational surprises. That preference supports firms that run reliable generation and networks. It also punishes ventures built on cheap debt that assume power would always be available at the same low price. The cost of capital is quietly sorting winners from dreamers. For individuals, the takeaway is simple. Keep a watch list that focuses on cash flow quality, not just themes. Favor businesses that either generate power, move power, store power, or help others use power more intelligently. Read the boring filings. Track how often projects reach commercial operation on schedule. Watch how management discusses fuel hedging, maintenance, and capacity payments. When leadership talks in specifics rather than slogans, that is usually a good sign. There is room for optimism, and it comes from execution. New nuclear designs are aiming for smaller modular builds. Storage costs continue to drift down over time, even the path is choppy. Demand response is getting smarter. Waste heat from data centers is being reused to warm nearby buildings. These are not silver bullets. They are compounding improvements that add resilience. If you're patient and selective, the world that looks strained today can become an engine for steady returns. Where does this go next? The honest answer is that growth in compute will keep pushing the grid to its limits, and policy will chase it. Some regions will overbuild and learn hard lessons. Others will plan well and attract capital at great terms. Volatility will not go away. That is fine. Volatility is what pays the disciplined investor who survives the dips and keeps collecting. You do not need to predict every move. You need a process that keeps you on the right side of the transfer. Here is a signal to carry with you. In the last cycle, the scarce resource was attention. In this cycle, the scarce resource is dependable energy. Models will come and go. What endures is the value of capacity that does not blink when the weather turns or the headlines shout. If you keep your map focused on power and you build patiently, you will be early to where wealth is actually flowing. If you want more breakdowns that help you stay positioned when the story shifts, hit subscribe and join a community that treats discipline and data as the edge that compounds over time. Stay sharp, stay steady, and remember, energy is the currency of the AI age.